Hey everyone, welcome back. Here's the process of me building my first PC that I'm gonna have to flip. So you have to be very delicate with the CPU and make sure the corner lines up. Don't make the mistake I did and make sure the thing goes down properly. Then you have to install the RAM. It's better if you put it in the second and the fourth slot because that offers something called dual channel. So once you have installed the memory properly, make sure you don't damage the pins. And then I install the CPU cooler because if the CPU starts to overheat, that could be very bad for the system. The next step after installing all of this is putting it in the case. So the first thing you should do is install the IO shield because you cannot do it if you put in the motherboard first. Once you've installed the IO shield properly, then you make sure you put in your motherboard and make sure the golden standoffs are installed in the correct positions because it could scratch up your motherboard and that would be very bad. So go slow with it and take your time. Make sure to fasten all screws, but don't fasten them too tight because that could also damage the motherboard. There's a slight chance of that happening. Also, a mistake I realized later was I moved the CMOS battery. That made the PC boot up into BIOS every single time. So when it's in, make sure you wire them properly. Get the HD audio, the IO ports, the USB 3.0, everything in. Then you put in the power supply and the graphics card as well. Make sure to connect everything in. So this was my first boot. It started up, then it shut down, which kind of gave me a heart attack. But then it started up again. It took a minute for there to be post, but then eventually it came on. Since it was the first time this PC was turning on, I took it into BIOS and I had to press F1 here to move forward. But then after I was in BIOS, I had to turn XMP on because that's what enables your RAM to be working at the maximized frequency. Because usually the frequency in your system is not as much as advertised on your RAM. Because my RAM here was, I think, 3200 megahertz, and the base on this motherboard was 2133 megahertz. So I turned that on and then switched up the boot order so that it booted onto my SSD. Then I put in my boot drive here, which I had Windows installed on already. Once that was in, I was able to install Windows on my SSD. So this process took a minute, and once you're into it, you follow the process with it, and it's pretty simple to be very honest, because it takes a while, but then all you have to do is just click some buttons and then it does its own thing. Even though it's on an SSD, the first boots usually take long. So then you choose your language and your region. You move forward, click on install. If you have an issue with your computer, then click on repair, and usually Windows is able to handle it on its own. So I chose Windows Pro here. Then after moving forward, I chose the custom installation, and then I was hit with an error because for some reason my SSD had to be reset on the correct format. So I did that through command prompt, and it was supposed to be on the GPT format, or whatever that's supposed to mean. Even after I did that, it wasn't working because I had to go back and then come here so it could refresh itself. You guys could comment down below if there's a better way of doing it, but this is what I figured out. So once I did this, I just followed it again, and then I was able to install it on my SSD. As I said, it's a pretty simple process. And then this is what took long. I think it took 10 to 15 minutes, and I sped it up really fast so I could shrink it into this video. And now that all of this was done, I had to choose in my region, my language, and then I just cruised through all of this. It's really boring to be honest, even when doing it over and over again, because Windows does most of everything in it, and it takes quite a long while, even on SSD. This was my first PC on an SSD, and I expected to work faster, even though it's much better than the the HDD. Here's the first spiel on this. And here I listed my ad because if you didn't watch the previous video, I was supposed to flip this. So here's the ad. I named this PC Stormforge, and then I added a wallpaper that suited the PC itself. So I added a couple of good pictures for this. One showing the whole PC, one showing the inside. I had an extra Funko Pop laying over, so I threw that in for the people who bought it. One showing through the side, and another from the front. The mistake I did in this picture was I had my other monitor on the side and I made it visible. So here's something you guys shouldn't do if you flip a PC. Also showing the IO shield because a PC looks very ugly without it. And yeah, that's it. My description included the benchmarks and the games I tested were Fortnite first of all because that's what everyone looks for. And on high settings, I was able to run Fortnite pretty well. Then I tested one of my favorite games, which was GTA 5. I mean, who doesn't love GTA? Then I tried Apex Legends. I'm not too good with it because the first time I played it was for this PC. The next thing I tried was Borderlands. And then after that was Cyberpunk. Because Cyberpunk is a really demanding game, and if your PC can work on that, I would say it could work on most other games. So then I mentioned the specs and it was an i5 6500 with 16 gigabytes of RAM, RX 580, and I also mentioned the power supply and the storage. And after 2 weeks of the ad being listed, I found a buyer. I don't know how to end this video, so like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.